The corporate dinner was flawless: crystal chandeliers, polished executives, million-dollar deals waiting to close. But Jennifer Hayes couldn't focus on any of it. Across the crowded ballroom, tucked away at a corner table meant for employees' families, her 8-year-old daughter sat frozen, alone. Charlie's small hands gripped the edge of the white tablecloth, knuckles pale, eyes fixed on the untouched plate before her. Jennifer had promised herself this time would be different. That bringing Charlie tonight would prove something to her ex-mother-in-law, to the whispers in the office, to herself. Then she saw it. A man she didn't recognize, just another mid-level employee in an ill-fitting suit, crouched beside Charlie's chair. His hands moved in fluid, deliberate shapes, sign language, and for the first time in months, Charlie's face transformed. A smile. Not the polite, practiced one Jennifer had learned to expect, but something raw and real. Something Jennifer had never seen directed at her. The truth Jennifer was about to discover would force her to confront a question she'd been running from since the day her husband walked out. What if the person failing Charlie wasn't the world, but her? The morning had started the way most mornings did in the Hayes household, with silence. Not the comfortable kind that settled between people who understood each other, but the heavy, suffocating kind that filled spaces where words should have been. Jennifer stood in the kitchen, pouring coffee into her travel mug with mechanical precision, her eyes already scanning the emails loading on her phone. The spring sunlight filtered through the window above the sink, catching dust particles in its beam, but she didn't notice. She never noticed anymore. Charlie sat at the breakfast table, pushing scrambled eggs around her plate with a fork. Her dark hair fell forward, hiding her face, creating a curtain between her and the world, between her and her mother. She'd learned early that staying small, staying quiet, well, quieter than she already was, made things easier, made her mother's jaw unclench, made the mornings pass faster. Jennifer glanced at her daughter, saw the untouched food, and felt the familiar tightness in her chest. That guilt that never quite left, the one that whispered she wasn't enough, couldn't be enough, would never be enough. She pushed it down, the way she'd learned to push down everything that didn't fit into the 30-minute slots on her calendar. "Eat your breakfast, sweetheart," Jennifer said, her voice gentle but distracted. Charlie didn't look up. Of course she didn't. The words hung in the air, pointless and performative, and Jennifer knew it. She always knew it. But what else was there? She'd tried learning sign language 3 years ago, downloaded apps, watched videos during her lunch breaks, made it through the alphabet twice before a merger consumed her life for 6 months. When she finally came up for air, Charlie had stopped asking her to try. The iPad sat next to Charlie's plate, her one reliable companion. Jennifer had bought it after the divorce, told herself it was educational, that all kids used tablets now. But really, it was easier. Easier than trying to bridge a gap she didn't know how to cross. Easier than sitting in the silence and feeling it press against her ribs like a weight. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant. "Preston Walsh confirmed for tonight. Needs to discuss terms before signing. Critical you're available." Jennifer's stomach dropped. Preston Walsh, the investor who could make or break the next quarter, the man whose old money reputation preceded him like a storm cloud. And tonight was the annual company dinner. Another text arrived, this one from a number she knew too well. Maureen, her ex-mother-in-law. "I'll be in town Thursday. We need to discuss Charlie's living arrangements." The implied threat was as subtle as a sledgehammer. Jennifer's fingers tightened around her phone until her knuckles went white. Maureen had been making noises about custody since the divorce, dropping comments about Jennifer's work schedule, about Charlie's needs, about how difficult it must be for a single mother, especially one running a company, to provide proper care. Jennifer looked at Charlie again, really looked this time, and saw her daughter drawing on a napkin with a purple crayon, always drawing. The figures were simple stick people, houses, trees, but there was something about them that made Jennifer's throat ache. In the drawing, there were 3 figures. A small one in the middle, a larger one on each side. But one of the larger figures was crossed out, scribbled over with harsh black lines until only a dark smudge remained. "Charlie," Jennifer started, then stopped. What could she say? That she was sorry? That she was trying? That she felt like she was drowning every single day and taking her daughter down with her? Charlie glanced up, her eyes so much like her father's, meeting Jennifer's for just a moment before dropping back to the napkin. In that brief look, Jennifer saw everything she was failing to be. Everything Charlie needed and wasn't getting. The decision formed before Jennifer could think it through, before she could list all the reasons it was a terrible idea. "You're coming with me tonight," she heard herself say. "To the company dinner." Charlie's head snapped up, eyes wide. Jennifer couldn't tell if it was hope or fear in her daughter's expression. Maybe both. "It'll be fine," Jennifer continued, more to herself than to Charlie. "You can sit with the other employees' families. There's always kids there. It'll be good for you to get out." But even as she said it, Jennifer felt the lie settle in her stomach like a stone. It wouldn't be good for Charlie. It would be another evening of her daughter sitting alone while Jennifer worked the room, made small talk, closed deals. Another evening of Charlie being dragged along to prove something Jennifer couldn't quite name. That she was a good mother. That she could balance it all. That Maureen was wrong. Charlie's hands moved suddenly, fingers forming shapes Jennifer didn't understand. Fast, desperate movements that looked almost like pleading. Jennifer felt her chest constrict. "I know, baby," she said, even though she had no idea what Charlie had said. "I know. But Mommy has to work, and I can't leave you with a sitter tonight." "Not with..." She trailed off, not wanting to mention Maureen, not wanting to voice the fear that her ex-mother-in-law might use even that against her. The moment stretched, thin and fragile. Then Charlie's hands stilled. She picked up her iPad, pulled up her keyboard app, and typed, "Okay, Mom." 2 words, simple, obedient. Exactly what Jennifer wanted to hear and everything she dreaded. Because she could see it in the way Charlie's shoulders curved inward, the way her fingers hesitated over the screen. Resignation. Her 8-year-old daughter had already learned to resign herself to disappointment. Jennifer wanted to say something more, to promise it would be different this time, but her phone buzzed again, a call from the office, and the moment evaporated like morning mist. She grabbed her coat, her briefcase, her keys. "Get dressed," she said, already moving toward the door. "Mrs. Patterson will be here in 10 minutes to take you to school." She paused at the threshold, looked back at Charlie, still sitting at the table, small and still and silent. "I love you," Jennifer added, and the words felt both true and insufficient. Charlie nodded. Didn't type back. Didn't need to. They both knew love wasn't the problem. The problem was everything else. The door closed behind Jennifer with a soft click, and she was already thinking about the presentation for Preston, about the contracts, about the 100 things demanding her attention. Behind her, in the quiet kitchen filled with morning light, Charlie sat alone with her untouched breakfast and her drawings of families that didn't exist, wondering if tonight would be another evening of watching her mother choose everything else over her, wondering if maybe, just maybe, Grandma Maureen was right. The Grand Harbor Hotel lived up to its name. Jennifer navigated through the lobby with the practiced ease of someone who'd attended 1,000 similar events, her heels clicking against marble floors that reflected the chandelier light like scattered diamonds. Charlie walked beside her, one small hand clutching the strap of her backpack, the one with her iPad, her drawing supplies, her carefully curated tools for surviving in a world that didn't know how to listen to her. Jennifer had dressed Charlie in a navy blue dress, tights, and her good shoes, the ones that pinched. The outfit said, "Look, I'm a good mother. Look how well I take care of her." But Charlie's hunched shoulders and downcast eyes told a different story, one Jennifer tried not to read. The ballroom was already filling with employees and their families. Round tables draped in white linens dotted the space, each topped with centerpieces of white roses and gold-dusted branches. A string quartet played softly in the corner, competing with the rising tide of conversation and laughter. Jennifer scanned the room with the efficiency of a general surveying a battlefield, cataloging faces, noting who was talking to whom, calculating her angles of approach. "There," Jennifer said, gesturing toward a table near the back, far from the main action. "That's where the families sit. See? There are other kids." It wasn't entirely a lie. There were 3 other children visible, all of them running between tables in a game of tag, their parents deep in conversation and seemingly oblivious to the chaos. Charlie looked at the scene, then at her mother, and Jennifer saw the question in her eyes. "Do I have to?" "Just for a few hours," Jennifer said, already spotting Preston Walsh near the bar, his silver hair and commanding presence impossible to miss. "I'll check on you soon, I promise." Charlie's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Always so obedient, always so desperate not to be more trouble than she already was. Jennifer felt something crack inside her chest but pushed it away. She had to focus. This dinner could determine the company's future. Charlie would understand when she was older. She had to. Jennifer guided Charlie to the table, pulled out a chair, and settled her daughter in the seat facing away from the main room, away from the action. "Hidden. Stay here, okay? Don't wander off." She set Charlie's backpack on the table. "You have your iPad. You'll be fine." The words felt like ashes in her mouth, but she was already turning away, already smoothing her dress, already putting on the smile that made investors write checks and board members nod in approval. Preston Walsh stood with 2 other executives near the bar, a tumbler of whiskey in his weathered hand. He was old money, old guard, the kind of man who still believed in handshakes and hunting lodges and keeping certain people in certain places. Jennifer had done her research. She knew his portfolio, his interests, his prejudices. She knew she'd have to be perfect tonight. Sharper than sharp, flawless. "Preston," Jennifer said, extending her hand as she approached. Her smile was warm but professional, the smile she'd perfected in boardrooms and negotiations. "Thank you for coming, Jennifer." His handshake was firm, appraising. "Quite an event. Your company certainly knows how to impress." They fell into the familiar dance of business small talk, discussing quarterly projections and market trends, the conversation flowing like a well-rehearsed script. But Jennifer's attention kept fragmenting, her gaze flickering over Preston's shoulder toward the back table, where Charlie sat hunched over her iPad, isolated in a room full of people. "Children are such a blessing," Preston said, following her gaze. His tone was casual, but Jennifer heard the edge underneath. "Though I imagine it's quite demanding, balancing a company and single parenthood." There it was, the polite inquiry that was really an assessment. "Can you handle this? Are you compromised? Will your personal life interfere with my investment?" "Charlie's wonderful," Jennifer said, the practiced line rolling off her tongue. "Very independent, very mature for her age." Every word felt like a betrayal. Preston nodded slowly, his eyes still on Charlie's distant figure. "Special needs children can be particularly challenging. I admire your dedication." The words landed like a slap, even though his tone remained pleasant. Jennifer felt her spine straighten, her smile tighten. "Charlie is not a challenge. She's my daughter." Preston raised his hands in a gesture of mock surrender. Of course. No offense intended. I'm simply saying it must be difficult. My own daughter had developmental issues, and we found placing her in a specialized facility was best for everyone involved." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Jennifer felt rage and shame war in her chest. Part of her wanted to tell Preston exactly where he could put his investment. The other part, the part that knew payroll was due in 2 weeks, and the company was leveraged to the hilt, kept her mouth shut and her smile in place. "Charlie is exactly where she needs to be," Jennifer said firmly. "Now, about the contract terms." Preston waved a dismissive hand. Later. Let's enjoy the evening first." Business always goes smoother with a full stomach and good wine. He moved toward his assigned table, leaving Jennifer standing alone, her heart pounding with suppressed fury and something that felt dangerously close to despair. She looked back toward Charlie. Her daughter hadn't moved, still hunched over her iPad, her small frame rigid with tension. The other children had abandoned their game and now sat with their parents, chattering and laughing. Charlie sat alone, always alone. Jennifer took a step toward her, then stopped. If she went over now, if she sat with Charlie instead of working the room, Preston would notice. He'd see it as weakness, as distraction. The deal would slip away. And then what? How would she fight Maureen's custody attempt without financial stability? How would she provide for Charlie without the company? The rationalization felt thin, even to her own ears, but Jennifer turned away anyway, turned back toward the executives and the networking and the careful dance of corporate politics. Behind her, she didn't see Charlie's shoulders slump further, didn't see her daughter's finger hesitate over her iPad screen, didn't see the single tear that traced down Charlie's cheek before she quickly wiped it away, glancing around to make sure no one had noticed. Because no one ever noticed Charlie. That was the point. The dinner service began. Servers in crisp white uniforms moved through the room with military precision, setting down plates of seared salmon and roasted vegetables. Conversation swelled, punctuated by bursts of laughter and the clink of silverware against china. Jennifer found herself at the head table, Preston on her right, other board members filling the remaining seats. She smiled. She laughed at appropriate moments. She discussed expansion strategies and risk mitigation. And with every passing minute, the distance between her and Charlie stretched like a canyon. Charlie picked at her food with mechanical movements, not tasting anything, not caring. The iPad screen glowed in front of her, but she wasn't really looking at it. She was watching the families around her, the easy way parents leaned toward their children, the casual touches on shoulders and heads, the inside jokes that made everyone laugh. She was watching the world that existed for everyone else but her. Then a shadow fell across her table. Charlie looked up, expecting one of the servers asking to remove her barely touched plate. Instead, she saw a man crouching beside her chair, his eyes level with hers. He was maybe in his mid-40s, with kind eyes and a suit that didn't quite fit right, the kind worn by someone who didn't often need to dress up. But it wasn't his appearance that made Charlie's breath catch. It was his hands. They were moving, forming shapes, asking a question in the one language Charlie understood perfectly. "Are you okay?" Charlie's eyes went wide. Her hands flew up instinctively, responding before her brain could catch up. "You know sign language?" The man's face broke into a warm smile. "I do," his hands answered. "My son is deaf. I'm Rob. What's your name?" For the first time in hours, maybe months, Charlie felt something inside her chest unclench. Someone was talking to her. Really talking. Not at her, not around her, but to her. Her hands moved rapidly. "Charlotte. Everyone calls me Charlie." "Nice to meet you, Charlie," Rob signed. He glanced at her plate. "Not hungry?" Charlie shook her head, then hesitated. Her hands formed words slowly, carefully. "I don't like being here." Rob's expression softened. "Me neither." He signed back. "These things are always too loud and too long." He looked over his shoulder and gestured. "That's my son, Ollie. Want to meet him?" A boy appeared beside Rob, maybe a year or two older than Charlie, with shaggy brown hair and a gap-toothed grin. His hands moved in greeting. "Hi, you're like me." Charlie felt something she hadn't felt in so long she'd almost forgotten the name for it. Hope. Her hands trembled slightly as she signed back. "Hi, I'm Charlie. I can't talk." Ollie's grin widened. "Me neither. Well, I can't hear. But same. Want to play tic-tac-toe? I have paper." Within minutes, they were bent over napkins covered in ses and os, laughing silently at Ollie's terrible handwriting and Charlie's competitive streak. Rob settled into the chair across from them. his eyes warm as he watched the two children communicate with the ease of people who shared a language, a world, an understanding that didn't need sound. Across the ballroom, Jennifer was mid-sentence in a discussion about quarterly projections when something made her glance toward the back table. What she saw made her voice trail off, made her lose her train of thought entirely. Charlie was laughing. Leaning forward, engaged, her hands moving in rapid gestures as she communicated with a boy she'd never met and a man Jennifer didn't recognize. The man's hands moved too, fluid and confident, speaking to Charlie in ways Jennifer never had, never could. The executive beside her asked a question. Jennifer didn't hear it. She was watching her daughter's face, transformed by joy, by connection, by the simple act of being understood. And she was watching this stranger, this man in his ill-fitting suit, who couldn't be anyone important, just another middle manager from some department she probably didn't even know existed. Give Charlie something Jennifer had failed to provide in 8 years of trying. Pride warred with shame. Relief battled with resentment. Jennifer felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crack, felt all the emotions she'd been pushing down threaten to surge up and drown her. "Jennifer?" Preston's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. "You were saying about the expansion timeline." Jennifer forced her attention back to the table, back to the deal, back to the performance. But her eyes kept drifting to that corner table where her daughter sat with strangers who somehow weren't strange at all, where Charlie's smile was brighter than Jennifer had seen it in months, where everything Jennifer thought she knew about being a mother was being quietly, irrevocably challenged. And in that moment, surrounded by executives and investors and all the trappings of her success, Jennifer Hayes felt like the loneliest person in the room. The dinner ended near 10 o'clock. Jennifer collected Charlie from the back table, her daughter clutching a napkin covered in drawings that Ollie had made stick figures holding hands, smiling suns, a dog that looked more like a potato. Charlie held it like it was treasure. Jennifer tried to catch the man's eye, the one who'd been talking with her daughter, but he'd already disappeared into the crowd with his son, just another face in the sea of employees she barely knew. On the drive home, Charlie sat in the back seat, pressing the napkin flat against her lap, smoothing out the wrinkles with careful fingers. Jennifer watched her in the rearview mirror, watched the small smile playing at the corners of her daughter's mouth, and felt something twist in her chest. "Did you have fun tonight?" she asked, the words awkward in her mouth. Charlie looked up, surprised by the question. She nodded slowly. Then her hands moved, signing something Jennifer didn't understand. "What does that mean, baby?" Jennifer asked, her voice softer than she'd intended. Charlie's hands stilled. She reached for her iPad, typed slowly. "He could talk to me. First time someone talked to me in forever." The words hit Jennifer like a physical blow. She gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white against the leather. "I talked to you," she said, but the defense sounded hollow even to her own ears. Charlie typed again. Not the same. The two words sat there on the screen, damning and true. Jennifer opened her mouth, then closed it. What could she say? That she'd tried? That she'd meant to learn? That work had gotten in the way? That life had gotten complicated? That she'd failed her daughter in the most fundamental way possible? The rest of the drive passed in silence. When they got home, Charlie went straight to her room, taped the napkin to her wall next to her other drawings, and stood there looking at it like it was a window into another world. Jennifer stood in the doorway, watching, feeling the distance between them stretch and stretch and stretch. The next morning, Jennifer sat in her office, staring at her computer screen without seeing it. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Charlie's face at that dinner table, lit up with joy. Hands moving in conversation with a stranger who'd given her more in 10 minutes than Jennifer had given her in years. Her assistant knocked on the door. "The quarterly reports are ready for your review, and Preston Walsh's office called. He wants to schedule a follow-up meeting." Jennifer nodded absently. "Later. I need you to find someone for me first." Her assistant raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "There was a man at the dinner last night. Mid-40s, brown suit, talked with my daughter. He has a son around 10 years old. Jennifer pulled up the employee database on her screen. I need to know who he is. Her assistant's fingers flew over her tablet. That would be Robert Fletcher. Everyone calls him Rob. He's in IT operations. Been with the company for 7 years. Jennifer clicked on his file. Robert Fletcher, single parent. Son Oliver enrolled in the company's dependent care program. Performance reviews solid but unremarkable. Just another employee in a company of hundreds. Except he wasn't, was he? He'd seen Charlie. Really seen her. Had known exactly what she needed, and had given it without hesitation, without reward, without any reason except simple human kindness. Jennifer closed the file and opened her email. Started typing. Deleted it. Started again. How do you thank someone for showing you everything you've been doing wrong? How do you ask for help when your pride has built walls so high you can barely see over them? In the end, she wrote, Mr. Fletcher, thank you for speaking with my daughter last night. It meant more than you could know. If you have time, I'd like to discuss. She stopped. Discuss what? Her inadequacy? Her failure? Jennifer deleted the email and closed her laptop. She'd figure it out later. Right now, she had meetings to attend, fires to put out, a company to run. Right now, she had to be the CEO everyone expected her to be. Charlie could wait. Charlie always waited. But that night, when Jennifer got home late from another meeting, she found a drawing taped to the refrigerator. 3 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one medium, one small. The tall one had long hair. Mom. The small one was Charlie, obviously. And the medium one, carefully labeled in Charlie's neat handwriting, friend, not the boy, the man, Rob. Jennifer stood there in her kitchen, still in her work clothes, staring at that drawing, and felt something inside her finally, completely break. The following days blurred together in a haze of work and avoidance. Jennifer threw herself into the Preston deal, into expansion plans, into anything that kept her from thinking about Charlie's drawing or the email she couldn't bring herself to send. She picked Charlie up late from school, dropped her off early, communicated through brief texts with the nanny. Charlie stopped trying to show her things. Stopped waiting up when Jennifer came home late. Stopped drawing pictures for the refrigerator. Then came Thursday afternoon. Jennifer was in a meeting when her phone buzzed with a number she recognized but hadn't expected. Maureen? She let it go to voicemail, but the message made her blood run cold. Jennifer, I'm at Charlie's school. The teacher called me because you weren't answering. We need to talk. About custody arrangements. I'll wait for you at your house. Jennifer's hands shook as she grabbed her briefcase and rushed out of the office, barely making excuses to the confused executives. When she pulled into her driveway, Maureen's Mercedes was already parked there, gleaming in the afternoon sun like an accusation. Her ex-mother-in-law stood on the front porch, impeccably dressed as always, her expression a careful blend of concern and judgment. Maureen, Jennifer said, her voice tight as she unlocked the door. What's this about? Maureen followed her inside, her heels clicking on the hardwood. It's about Charlie. The school counselor called me. Jennifer. Charlie's been acting out, drawing disturbing pictures, isolating herself more than usual. Jennifer felt her stomach drop. Disturbing pictures? Maureen pulled out her phone, showed Jennifer a photo. A drawing, clearly Charlie's style. A small figure trapped in a box, surrounded by darkness. One word written at the bottom. Alone. The counselor is concerned, Maureen continued. As am I. Charlie needs stability. She needs someone who can give her proper attention. Someone who isn't constantly working. Jennifer's hands clenched into fists. I provide for Charlie. I give her everything she needs. Everything but time. Everything but understanding. Maureen's voice was sharp now, the veneer of concern slipping. You can't even communicate with your own daughter, Jennifer. You never learned her language. You never tried. Not really. The words were knives, sharp and precise, cutting through every defense Jennifer had built. I did try, Jennifer said, but her voice came out as a whisper. I've been busy, I know. Always busy. Maureen shook her head. My son left because he couldn't handle Charlie's disability. I supported him then, and I was wrong. But watching you now, watching you make the same mistakes, hiding her, avoiding her, pretending work is more important, I can't stand by anymore. Jennifer felt tears prick at her eyes, hot and angry. So what? You want to take her from me? You think you can do better? I think Charlie deserves someone who will put her first. Someone who will learn to speak with her, not just at her. Someone who will see her as a person, not a problem to be managed between meetings. Maureen's words were brutal in their honesty. I'll be filing for primary custody next week. My lawyer will be in touch. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Jennifer, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're scared. And I think that fear is destroying your daughter. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like thunder. Jennifer stood alone in her entryway, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her like a house of cards. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant, emergency board meeting called for tomorrow morning. Preston is reconsidering terms. Jennifer looked at the message, then at the drawing still taped to her refrigerator. The one with 3 figures holding hands. The one labeled friend. She picked up her phone, and before she could think better of it, before pride could stop her, she pulled up Rob Fletcher's employee file and called his work extension. It rang 3 times. 4. She was about to hang up when a voice answered. "This is Rob." "Mr. Fletcher," Jennifer said, her voice shaking. "This is Jennifer Hayes. I need—" She stopped, the words catching in her throat. What did she need? Help? Forgiveness? A miracle? "I need to talk to you. About my daughter. About—" Her voice broke. "I don't know how to be her mother." There was a long silence on the other end. Then Rob's voice, gentle and careful. "Would you like to meet? There's a coffee shop near the office. I could come by after work." "Yes," Jennifer whispered. "Yes, please." She hung up and sank onto the floor of her kitchen, her back against the refrigerator, surrounded by the debris of her failures. And for the first time in years, Jennifer Hayes allowed herself to cry. The coffee shop was a small place tucked between office buildings, the kind with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. Jennifer arrived early, ordered something she didn't taste, and sat in a corner booth picking at a napkin until it was shredded into tiny pieces. She'd never felt more exposed, more vulnerable, more completely out of her depth. She was a CEO. She negotiated million-dollar deals, managed hundreds of employees, made decisions that affected people's livelihoods. But sitting here, waiting to ask a man she barely knew how to love her own daughter, she felt like she was 8 years old again, lost and small and terrified. Rob arrived exactly on time, carrying 2 cups of coffee even though Jennifer already had one. He set one in front of her anyway. "You looked like you could use another," he said simply, sliding into the seat across from her. Up close, Jennifer could see the lines around his eyes, the weariness that came from years of single parenting, the calluses on his hands from hard work. This was a man who knew struggle intimately, who lived with it daily, and somehow still found the kindness to help a stranger's child at a corporate dinner. "Thank you for coming," Jennifer said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know who else to call." Rob wrapped his hands around his coffee cup, waiting, not pushing, just present. The silence stretched, and Jennifer realized he wasn't going to make this easy for her. Why should he? She was his boss. This was beyond inappropriate. But desperation made people do strange things. "I saw you with Charlie," Jennifer finally said. "At the dinner. I saw her face when you talked to her. She was happy. Really happy. I can't remember the last time I saw her look like that." Her hands trembled around her own cup. "I tried to learn sign language once. I downloaded apps, watched videos. But I was so busy, and it was so hard, and eventually I just stopped." The confession tasted like ash. Rob took a sip of his coffee, his expression unreadable. "Can I ask you something?" Jennifer nodded. "Why did you stop?" I told myself it was work, that I had too much going on, too many responsibilities, that Charlie had her iPad, and the school had interpreters, and she was managing fine without me. Jennifer's voice cracked. But that's not really why. Then why? Rob's voice was gentle, but there was something underneath it. A challenge. Jennifer met his eyes and saw no judgment there, just a quiet understanding that somehow made it worse. Because every time I tried, every time I fumbled through a sign or got something wrong, I felt like I was failing her all over again. It was easier to not try than to try and fail. That's honest, Rob said. Painful, but honest. He set down his coffee. Do you want to know why I learned sign language? Jennifer nodded, not trusting her voice. Because my wife wouldn't. Rob's jaw tightened slightly, the first crack in his calm demeanor. Ollie was diagnosed at 18 months. Hearing loss, profound and permanent. My wife. He stopped, took a breath. She loved him, but she couldn't accept what he was. Kept looking for treatments, cures, anything to make him normal. I started learning sign language in secret, at night after she went to bed. By the time Ollie was 3, I was fluent. My wife barely knew the alphabet. Jennifer felt her throat constrict. What happened? We fought. A lot. She'd say I was enabling him, preventing him from adapting to the real world. I'd say she was rejecting our son for who he actually was. Rob's voice went quiet. One night, we were driving home from another specialist appointment, another doctor telling us there was nothing to be done. She was crying, saying she couldn't live like this anymore. I got angry, said some things I can't take back. He stopped, staring at his coffee like it held answers. A truck ran a red light, T-boned us on her side. She died before the ambulance arrived. Ollie was in the back seat. Couldn't hear the impact, couldn't hear me screaming. When they pulled him out, he just kept signing, "Where's Mama?" over and over, and I had to tell my 3-year-old son that his mother was dead. A single tear tracked down Rob's face, and he wiped it away roughly. The last thing I said to her was that she was a terrible mother, and maybe she was struggling, maybe she was doing her best, but I never gave her the chance to figure it out. I pushed and judged and made her feel like a failure until there was nothing left between us but anger. He looked up at Jennifer. So when you ask me why I helped Charlie that night, it's because I saw you standing there, watching your daughter with this stranger, and I saw my wife. I saw someone drowning, and too proud to ask for help. Jennifer couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The weight of Rob's story pressed against her chest like a physical thing. I'm so sorry, she finally whispered. I'm not telling you this for sympathy, Rob said. I'm telling you because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. The same mistakes my wife did. Charlie doesn't need a perfect mother. She needs you. Present, trying, failing sometimes, but there. Actually there. I don't know how, Jennifer said, and the admission felt like stepping off a cliff. I don't know how to be what she needs. Maureen, my ex-mother-in-law, she's filing for custody. She says I'm failing Charlie, and she's right. I am. Rob leaned forward. Do you love your daughter? More than anything, Jennifer said, immediately, fiercely. Then start there. Everything else, the sign language, the communication, the connection, it all comes from that. But you have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to look stupid and make mistakes and fumble through it anyway. His expression softened. I can help you, teach you the basics, but I can't want it for you. You have to want it for yourself. Jennifer felt something shift inside her, some fundamental understanding clicking into place. She thought of Charlie's drawings, of the stick figure labeled friend, of her daughter's face lighting up when someone finally spoke her language. She thought of Preston Walsh and his implications, of Maureen's accusations, of all the ways she'd been letting fear drive her decisions. Will you teach me? Jennifer asked, and her voice was steady now. Will you help me learn how to talk to my daughter? Rob smiled, small but genuine. Yeah, I'll help you. They started that night. Rob came to Jennifer's house after she picked up Charlie from school, brought Ollie with him. Charlie's face when she opened the door and saw them standing there, surprise melting into joy, melting into cautious hope. That expression alone was worth every bit of humiliation Jennifer was about to endure. They sat at the kitchen table, the four of them, and Rob started with the basics. The alphabet. Simple words. Hello, thank you, I love you. Jennifer fumbled through every sign, her hands clumsy and uncertain, her movements stiff where Rob's were fluid. Charlie watched with wide eyes, her expression unreadable. Ollie helped, his small hands guiding Jennifer's fingers into the right positions, his patience infinite in the way only children's could be. Like this, he signed, and Rob translated. Thumb out more. An hour in, Jennifer wanted to quit. Her hands hurt, her pride was in tatters, and she'd mixed up the signs for mother and father 3 times, making Charlie giggle, the first genuine laugh Jennifer had heard from her daughter in months. This is impossible, Jennifer said, letting her hands drop to the table. It's not, Rob said simply. It's just hard. There's a difference. He demonstrated the sign for mother again, slowly. Try one more time. Jennifer took a breath and tried. Got it wrong. Tried again. Still wrong. Charlie reached across the table and gently adjusted her mother's hand, moving her thumb to the right position, and suddenly the sign was correct. Their eyes met, and Jennifer saw something in her daughter's face she hadn't seen in years. Pride. Charlie was proud of her. Not for being successful, not for being a CEO, but for trying, for failing, and trying again anyway. Good, Rob signed, and spoke aloud for Jennifer's benefit. That's exactly right. They practiced every night for 2 weeks. Rob would come over after work, sometimes with Ollie, sometimes alone. They'd sit at the kitchen table or in the living room, going over signs until Jennifer's hands ached and her brain felt like it was melting. Charlie was always there, watching, correcting, slowly starting to believe that maybe this time, her mother wouldn't give up. During the day, Jennifer's carefully ordered world continued to crumble. Preston Walsh pulled out of the deal, citing concerns about leadership focus. The board called emergency meetings. Her assistant started updating her resume, sensing the ship was sinking. Maureen's lawyer sent formal custody paperwork. But every night, Jennifer came home and signed with her daughter, stumbling through conversations about Charlie's day, about what she wanted for dinner, about the drawings she'd made in art class. Why are you doing this? Charlie asked one night, her hands moving in the fluid, confident way that made Jennifer's heart ache with envy. Rob translated. She wants to know why you're trying now, after all this time. Jennifer looked at her daughter, at this small person she'd created and loved and failed in equal measure, and signed her answer slowly, carefully, checking with Rob to make sure she got it right. Because I was scared, but I'm more scared of losing you. Charlie's eyes filled with tears. She launched herself across the table into Jennifer's arms, nearly knocking over the lamp, and held on like Jennifer was the only solid thing in a spinning world. Jennifer held her back, breathing in the smell of her daughter's shampoo, feeling the way Charlie's small frame fit against hers, and thought, This is what I've been missing. This is what I've been too afraid to reach for. That night, after Rob and Ollie left, after Charlie was tucked into bed clutching the napkin Ollie had drawn on weeks ago, Jennifer sat alone in her kitchen and made a decision. She opened her laptop, pulled up her calendar, and started canceling meetings. Started rearranging her life. Started choosing differently. The next morning, she walked into the office and called an emergency meeting with her leadership team. I'm stepping back, she announced, and watched shock ripple across their faces. Not stepping down, but delegating more. I need to reduce my hours significantly. Her COO opened his mouth to object, but Jennifer raised a hand. This is not up for discussion. My daughter needs me. And for the first time in her life, I'm going to actually be there. What about the Preston deal? Someone asked. What about the investors? Find new ones, Jennifer said simply. Ones who understand that leadership doesn't mean sacrificing everything personal for the sake of business. If this company can't survive without me working 80-hour weeks, then we've built something broken. She looked around the table at the executives she'd hired, trained, trusted. You're all capable. I hired you because you're the best at what you do. So do it. I'll be here when you need me. But my daughter comes first now. The meeting ended in stunned silence. Jennifer returned to her office, pulled out her phone, and called Maureen. Her ex-mother-in-law answered on the second ring. I'm not going to fight you, Jennifer said before Maureen could speak. Not in court, not through lawyers. You were right about me. About everything. She took a breath. But I'm changing. I'm learning sign language. I'm spending time with Charlie. I'm trying to be the mother she deserves. And I'm asking you not as someone who has the right to ask, but as someone who loves Charlie to give me a chance. Give us a chance. The silence on the other end stretched for what felt like hours. Then Maureen's voice, softer than Jennifer had ever heard it. Why should I believe you this time? Because I'm not promising to be perfect. I'm promising to try. I'm promising to show up. That's all I can offer. Jennifer's voice cracked. I know you love Charlie. I know you want what's best for her. But she needs her mother, and I need to be her mother. Please. Another long pause. I want weekly video calls. I want to see the progress. I want proof that you're following through. Done, Jennifer said immediately. Anything. And if you slip back into old patterns, Maureen's voice hardened. If you start putting work first again, I won't hesitate. I'll take you to court, and I will win. I understand. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. Jennifer hung up and sat in her office, looking out at the city skyline, at all the gleaming buildings full of people chasing success and thinking it mattered more than anything else. She used to be one of them. Maybe she still was, in some ways, but not in the ways that counted, not anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rob. Same time tonight? Charlie wants to teach you the sign for birthday. Hers is coming up. Jennifer smiled, the first genuine smile she'd felt in weeks. She typed back, I'll bring pizza. See you at 6. The next 3 months passed in a blur of stumbling conversations and fumbled signs and small victories that felt like mountain peaks. Jennifer learned to say, good morning, and how was school, and I'm proud of you. She learned that Charlie loved pepperoni pizza but hated mushrooms, that her favorite color was purple, that she wanted to be an artist when she grew up. Basic facts that any parent should know, that Jennifer had missed while she was busy building empires. Charlie's 9th birthday arrived on a Saturday in June. Jennifer had planned everything carefully, a small party in their backyard. Just Rob and Ollie, some of Charlie's classmates from her special education program, decorations that Charlie had helped pick out. No business associates, no networking, just celebration. When Charlie woke up that morning, she found Jennifer in the kitchen making pancakes slightly burned because Jennifer was not a natural cook, but made with love nonetheless. And next to the plate, a gift. Charlie opened it slowly, carefully, and pulled out a book. American Sign Language Dictionary, the cover read. But when she opened it, she saw that her mother had marked pages, had written notes in the margins, had highlighted phrases like, how was your day? And tell me about your dreams and I'm listening. Underneath the book was a handwritten letter. Charlie read it, her eyes moving over her mother's careful script. Dear Charlie, I'm sorry it took me so long to learn your language. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible for so many years. I can't change the past, but I promise you this, from now on, I will show up. I will try. I will fail sometimes, but I won't stop trying. You are not a burden. You are not a challenge. You are my daughter, and you are perfect exactly as you are. I love you in every language, but I'm learning to say it in yours. Happy birthday, my beautiful girl. Mom. Charlie looked up at Jennifer with tears streaming down her face, and her hands moved rapidly, frantically. Jennifer didn't understand all of it, but she caught the important parts. Love you. Thank you, Mom. Jennifer pulled Charlie into her arms and held her tight, and for the first time since Charlie was born, It felt like they were actually connected, actually together, actually a family. The party was simple and perfect. Kids ran through the backyard, playing games that didn't require words. Rob manned the grill, showing Jennifer how to properly flip burgers. Ollie and Charlie sat at the picnic table, covering it with drawings and playing tic-tac-toe and communicating in the easy, fluid way of children who understood each other perfectly. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Rob found Jennifer standing alone by the fence, watching the children play. "You did good," he said quietly. Jennifer turned to look at him, this man who'd saved her family without even realizing it. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. You just needed someone to believe you could." Rob's smile was gentle. "She's happy. Look at her." Jennifer looked. Charlie was laughing, her hands moving in animated conversation with Ollie, her face bright and open in a way Jennifer had never seen. No walls, no fear, just joy. "I almost lost her," Jennifer whispered. "I almost let my pride and my fear and my stupid career destroy the most important thing in my life." "But you didn't," Rob said. "You chose differently. That's what matters." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the party wind down, watching the sky deepen from orange to purple to deep blue. Charlie ran over to them, her hands moving quickly. "Time for cake." Jennifer signed back slowly, carefully, but correctly. "Yes, time for cake." Charlie beamed and grabbed both of their hands, dragging them toward the table where Ollie was already lighting candles. Everyone gathered around, singing happy birthday in a mixture of voices and signs. The words carried on air and expressed in movement, a symphony of celebration that needed no single language to be understood. Charlie closed her eyes, made a wish, and blew out her candles in one breath. When she opened her eyes, she looked directly at her mother and signed, "Best birthday ever." Jennifer signed back, "Best daughter ever," and she meant it with every fiber of her being. That night, after the guests had left and the decorations were taken down and Charlie was tucked into bed with her new book clutched to her chest, Jennifer sat on her daughter's bedroom floor and watched her sleep. She thought about all the years she'd wasted, all the moments she'd missed, all the ways she'd failed. But she also thought about the future, about the conversations they'd have and the memories they'd make and the relationship they were building one fumbled sign at a time. Rob's words echoed in her mind. "Charlie doesn't need a perfect mother. She needs you. Present, trying, failing sometimes, but there. Actually there." Jennifer stood, pressed a kiss to Charlie's forehead, and whispered even though Charlie couldn't hear her, "I'm here now, baby. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." In the morning, Jennifer woke to find Charlie sitting at the kitchen table with her drawing supplies spread out around her. A new picture was taking shape under her careful hands. 3 figures, like always. But this time they were all holding hands, no one crossed out, no one erased. The tall one, the small one, and the medium one. And at the top of the page, in Charlie's careful handwriting, "My family, Mom, me, friend Rob." Jennifer looked at the drawing and felt her eyes sting with tears. Not a family built on blood or legal documents or traditional structures, but a family built on presence, on choosing each other, on showing up even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. She sat down next to Charlie, who looked up with a question in her eyes. Jennifer signed, her hands still clumsy but confident. "Beautiful drawing. I love it." Charlie smiled and signed back, "I love you, Mom." 3 words, simple and profound. Words Jennifer had said 1,000 times but had never truly communicated until now. She signed back, "I love you too." And this time, she knew her daughter understood. Not just the words, but everything behind them. The promise, the commitment, the choice to stay and try and fail and try again. The choice to love loudly and imperfectly and completely. Outside, the sun rose higher, painting the kitchen in golden light. Somewhere across town, Rob was making breakfast for Ollie. preparing for another day of single parenting and hard work and small miracles. In boardrooms and offices, people were chasing success and measuring worth in dollars and deals. But here, in this small kitchen, with morning light streaming through the windows, Jennifer Hayes had found something more valuable than any contract, any investment, any amount of money or power or prestige. She'd found her daughter, and in finding Charlie, she'd found herself, the woman she was always meant to be, the mother Charlie had always deserved. It hadn't been easy. It had been the hardest thing Jennifer had ever done, harder than building a company or closing deals or fighting for custody. But it was also the most important. And every stumbling sign, every fumbled conversation, every moment of humble learning was worth it for the smile on Charlie's face, for the trust slowly building between them, for the family they were becoming. Jennifer looked at the drawing on the table at the 3 stick figures holding hands and made a silent promise, to Charlie, to herself, to the future they were building together. I'll keep showing up. I'll keep trying. I'll keep choosing you, every single day, no matter what. And this time, she meant it. This time, she would keep her word, because some things were worth more than success. Some things were worth everything, like love, like family, like finally learning to speak your daughter's language, even when it's the hardest thing you've ever done, especially then.